All right, so welcome to our first webinar for the year. It's actually the first one for quite a while. It's really good to be back. I had a fantastic break over Christmas and sat down and reflected on my business and realised that I'd stopped doing some of these webinars a little while ago and that I needed to get my act back together again. A number of people have been asking when I was going to run some more, so here we are with our first one. I'm really looking forward to it. We've got a bit of a program mapped out for the rest of the year to get back into it. Those who don't know, sort of a bit over 18 months ago, my family and I packed up and we moved down here to the Gold Coast. We're now really well established down here. The family's all settled in. I'm enjoying it. Looking forward to growing business here on the Gold Coast. Certainly enjoying life. A different sort of life balance to what we had in Bundaberg, and it's just great. So I'm having a good time, spending a lot of time riding my motorbike. All the twisty hills around here is just fantastic. So it's all good. I guess today what I want to talk about are the three barriers to success for you in 2018, and then how we're going to address them. And then I'd like to just talk then a little bit about if you're interested, how we can provide you with some support in order to help you, I guess, push on with your success in 2018. Now, the barriers, there's a little story here. In 2004, my wife Carolyn, is now into her, and I did a training course in property investment with a guy called Peter Flanagan. And Peter only did a few courses. He was a very, very successul property developer, investor. Started out investing when he was unemployed, which I thought was pretty special. And so, one of the things he talked about, I think, lots of good stuff in his training program, but one of the things I really took away that really resonated with me was these three barriers to being a good property investor. And when I looked at them, I thought those three barriers are not just about property. They're also about things that we, that in general business that we do. So let's talk about those let's talk about the barriers, because I've seen them play out not only in my life but in the businesses of my clients over time. And so I thought I'd share these with you in our webinar today. So first up, what I want you to do is just reflect a little bit. So I'd like you to reflect on 2017. What were the positives? So what things went well for you in 2017? So I want you to grab a pen and paper and make a little list. All right, so write down at least three things that went well for you in 2017. And then when you've got your top one, when you've got your three, I want you to pick the best one and share that with us in the question box. Okay, I won't give away any names or Pactual, but just share it with us. What went well for you in 2017? Hopefully there were at least three things. Yep. So start your own business, fabulous. Yep. Strong retainers, good, excellent. What else we got out there, folks? What went well for us? What went well? Got some sales growth, got some opportunities to learn and grow, strengthen our team. Yep. What other things happened for you? Better understanding of cost. Yeah, really important. Really important to understand some of your costs and how they impact on your margin. All right. Well, that's good. So we got some things there. Tell me now, the flip side is what could have gone better for you in 2017. Again, I want you to write down at least three things on your list, and then when you're ready, just type some of those at least into the question box for me. What didn't go so well for you? As I said, for me, I dropped the ball on some of my my marketing and other activities. Didn't actually affect my business in too many ways, but it's it's one of those things I find that if you get out of the habit of, it's really easy not to bring it up. Yep. So one of the things that didn't go so well for some people here was the speed of bringing on new business. Yeah. Not enough new sales. Yeah. What else? What other things didn't go so well for us? lost opportunities. Yeah, too busy working in the business. Yeah, to think strategically. Good one. Yeah, control of cost on jobs. So cost control, got a bit out of it. Time management. Yeah, didn't manage my time well. Yeah, that's all good. Yeah, somebody else dropped the ball on their marketing. Yeah, it's a common one. So just didn't do that. Yeah, missed a big opportunity. Wow. Okay. So there's different. I guess we've all got different sort of things that we're focused on and that happen in our businesses. So let's just talk a little bit about those. So what often we don't think about the real cost of those things. So we often just go, oh yeah, that we did that, we missed that opportunity, we did that. But often I think it's a good idea just to estimate what's been the cost of some of these things to us in our business. Because if we don't understand the full cost to our business, then I think at times we struggle to come up with solutions because we don't have enough pain, if you know what I mean. So we haven't really identified the pain, so therefore it's easy to gloss over it and not focus on the solution. So think through, what are some of these errors really, or these missions or missed opportunities or whatever they were for you last year. What do you think they cost you? And it might be you might be able to do it by saying, well, I actually missed out on a project, or you might look at it and say, we wasted some time and some energy and through WeWork and inefficiency, I reckon I lost, 2 hours a day for 22 weeks or something, and whatever rate you want to put in there, $50 an hour or $200 an hour. I don't know what you put your time in at, but what it really cost you. So pick one of those items you've written there on your list and say, okay, probably the most important one to you, and say, what did that really cost to our business? So what was the real cost, the real opportunity cost of that mission for us? And then, if you're brave enough, will you share that in the question box for us? Yep, 50K, 30 to 50K, 100K. Yeah, I mean, it's not an accounting exercise, so just have a bit of a stab at it. Yeah, good. 50 to 100K. Yep. Yeah, 100K. Well, 300K. Fantastic. Another 50K. Lots of 50Ks in there. Yep. Fantastic. So, I just find that if you start to quantify some of these things, then we can really start to get our head around what really happened. So let's just go back and then think about these sort of things. So when I think about what are the reasons for a lot of these omissions and missed opportunities and stuff, we often focus on the actions, and that's okay. But in most cases, I find that when we focus on the action, we're trying to find a solution to something that we didn't do, but we don't look for the underlying causes. And for argument's sake, what often happens is we blame the system or something, and rather than looking at what were the drivers, the mental and the people drivers, if you like, that sat behind that. So for me, I think about it and I go, so if the missed opportunity might have been missed sales opportunity because the team didn't follow through well on it. And sometimes the solution is, well, if we were tracking things better, then we would have done a better job on that, so we should put a new CRM in. But I'd ask the question, why weren't the team tracking it, and why didn't they follow through? And often it's, I've just done a training session with an organization where we talked about this. It's about call reluctance. People are actually reluctant to do the cold calling and the following up with the clients and for the sales opportunity. So therefore the solution wasn't actually a new CRM. That could be part of the solution, but the solution was really around better sales training and coaching for those sales for those people. So we did some sales training, and we're starting to look at some of those factors. But people are just reluctant to pick it up, so they just don't. So often we look at the action and we try and fix the action when we don't look at what the underlying causes are in our sort of businesses. And when I look at the underlying causes that sit in there for lots of businesses, failure to implement is a key one. So too often we just simply fail to deliver. We either partially deliver something, we don't quite get there, or it's a complete miss. We just don't get there. Now it's often because we've set unrealistic deadlines, unrealistic times. We just didn't make it a priority for us. All those sorts of stuff. But if you think about you and your business, what are the I guess the reasons that you often fail to implement? So just type into the question box again. What are some of the things that you've thought about where you just failed to implement, and you look at it and go, yeah, I did it because of that? What is it? What are the drivers of failing to implement in your business? Hit the question box. Hopefully somebody's a faster typer than I am. Yeah, thought somebody else was going to do it. Time. Yeah, we get too busy working in the business, so yeah. It's that. Yeah, so often it's money. Didn't have enough cash on hand to do it. Take on too much. Yeah, lack of prioritization. Thank you. Yeah, it's often not what I thought, or my people didn't do it. Yeah, too busy attending to projects. Yeah, didn't have a clear vision or a clear target market for what we're trying to do. Yeah, so all these things just get in the way, and as a result, we end up failing to implement. So often it's just simply because there's too big a leap. We're trying to take too big a leap for the resources that we actually have available. So if you think about that, then that's what we've done there is just bit off a bit more than we could chew. And that's, I guess, the second thing that I find all the time is, where our aspirations were bigger than our ability to deliver in this case. I'm sure plenty of you've have bitten off more than we can chew. I certainly have in my business. But just give me an example of where you've probably bitten off more than you can chew. It doesn't have to be in the last year. It could be any time. So when have you done something you've just gone, wow, that was too big? For me, many years ago, I took on a project that was way bigger than our capability to deliver in defence, and we delivered it well in the end, but we struggled. It was a scramble the entire time to make sure that we had the resources and the people on board, and it was just purely that we shouldn't have done it. So where for you have you bitten off more than you can chew? Yeah, so somebody's taking on a client that they shouldn't have taken on, trying to work in too many markets. Yeah, doing too many tasks, not enough delegation. Somebody can't really think of anything. That's okay. Yeah. So, yeah, not enough delegation. Trying to do too much. Yeah. Committing too much time to a particular activity. Yeah. A particular prospect. So we've focused too hard on one prospect trying to do things. So we end up just I find just trying to do too many things. So, and then the third area that I find here is knowledge gaps. We just didn't have all the information, and often we just won't have all the information. And I'm not suggesting that you need to have a perfect set of information before you make a step forward, but I'm absolutely stunned some of the time at the level of information that people have before they make a decision, and what they're really prepared to start on. And so I find there's often big gaps in their knowledge. And when I sort of focus this back to the sort of three areas that Peter Flanagan talked about, we end up with these sort of the three biggest barriers. And I guess I find these three biggest barriers sit behind the decision making that we make, and impact on our planning, our ability to plan and make good business decisions. Now, I'm sure they're not the only barriers and not the only things that get in the way, but from my experience, these guys cover a large proportion of what it is. So let's just start talking quickly about those. So the first one is greed, which, the dictionary.com defines as an intense or selfish desire for something, usually money, power, or fame. Yeah. Or food, sorry, money, food, or fame, or food. Yeah. So, and Gordon Gekko in Wall Street said, greed is good. It was his mantra. Now, greed can be good, right? Because greed can be very motivating for people. It can get you out of bed. It can get you doing things and everything else. But if you're not careful, if it's coming from the wrong place, if this your accumulation or a need for greed is driven by an unhealthy elements in your ego or your psyche, particularly things like vanity and narcissism, where it's look at me, look at me, look at me all the time, or avarice, which is around always constantly looking for more and more money, then often we end up making poor decisions based on it. I'm not talking about just greed for greed's sake, but often we are hooked up in focusing on things which feed a particular need that we have at the expense of something else. So if you can just think of things, how would you see greed expressing itself in a business context? So what sort of things maybe in your business, or have you seen in others? It's often easier to look at the neighbour's business and see what they've done. What sort of things have you seen? How have you seen greed manifest itself in business? Yeah, trying to grow too big. Yeah, so people do that. They set aspirations too big. Aspirations. Yeah, yeah. Sorry, something's a bit longer. Yeah, you haven't you stopped adding value, taking on more customers than you can serve. Yeah, too much focus on the dollars at any cost. Yeah, so people do those sort of things. Too short a time frame. Yeah, so picking up a time frame that's just too short. That sort of stuff. Yeah, and yeah, corrupt practices. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and you'll see that in all sorts of businesses. I'm sure, particularly in your industry. And the other one I see is too much focus on me, 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 me. So these people get caught up in themselves and get really focused on look at me, look at me, look at me all the time, and it becomes addictive to them. Poor service, yeah, that's one. It's how it manifests itself, John, into poor service. So and poor decisions. I find people make poor decisions when they focus on when they're just being greedy and focused on things. They make really poor decisions and poor investments. Um, Now, greed's often linked to insecurity and also to the second one, which is ignorance. And ignorance is this sort of lack of knowledge or information. And to be honest, I'm often astounded by the decisions that people make on the flakiest of information. When the internet is great, get lots of good information out there, but some of it is absolute rubbish, and it's not verified. It's just people just making up stuff, and people are basing their decision making and stuff on some of this, and I find it's really inferior information, and what it does is give them a sort of some real damaging um, impacts on their business. So I guess ignorance for me, I've seen it into itself in that, by not verifying the credentials of somebody. They're basing informations on either false data or even worse, some industry myths about, stuff that so and so is making so much money and doing so many things and doing stuff without having any real information on what to base it. Where have you seen ignorance raise its ugly head in business, in your business even? Where does a lack of information stifle us? Where have you seen people make crazy decisions based on poor information? Yeah, it's not checking facts. Yeah, assuming that the information was correct. Yeah, so just assume that what they were told was correct. Yeah, when tight deadlines are looming, people don't look for information. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah. Hang on a sec. I'm having trouble with the technology here. Yeah, only using information, only getting feedback and information from the sales team. Yeah, exactly. So the sales team being liberal with the truth. Yeah, yeah, aiming for a critical mass. Yes. Yeah. Sorry, a bit of an in joke there. Yeah, client decisions, whether or not to start to proceed with their projects. Yeah, so they often just make those based on sort of no information at all, or information that's not relevant, real, or sometimes even verified. So they're making those things. So ignorance is the second of our major barriers to success. And then the third one is interesting because it's fear. Fear is an unpleasant emotion caused by danger, pain, or harm. And I find that fear manifests itself in two ways often in business. It's fear of failure. So we're afraid that we won't succeed, and therefore we don't make decisions and we don't do things because we're scared that we're not going to succeed. And the other one is the fear of success. That we're afraid to succeed, which is really interesting. And both of them sound a little bit crazy, but they're real. I've certainly experienced both of those, and sometimes it's fear of failure. Is really interesting because you'd think it's counterintuitive that you're scared of failing, therefore you do things not to. But people should shoot themselves in the foot on purpose so that they don't succeed, or to make sure that their project just doesn't go through. So really, really dangerous. And so where's some examples where fear has stopped you or your business or your neighbour from moving ahead? I was going to ask the question, so you should have been ready to go. Yeah, stop me from promoting and selling my business. Yeah. Yeah, change projects that people haven't bought into. Yeah. Yeah. Employing a really good person before we were ready. So fear stopped you from doing that. Yeah. Yeah, being scared to delegate. Yeah, it's common. Yeah. Yeah. Opening a new branch. Yeah. Fear of not being liked or accepted. Yeah, that's right. That's a common one. That's a really common one, that we don't do things because it's easier then, because we don't have to verify that people may not like us or accept it. Yeah, bring on somebody new in case they take your job. Yeah, I was always happy for people to take my job. I thought I was doing a good job if you did that. So these are the sort of the things that drive it. So greed, fear, and ignorance sort of drive things. And when we start to look at them in a bit of a model, what I found is that we end up with where they start to combine. Because often we don't have one of these elements operating at a particular time. Often there are two or three of them even operating at a time. So when we've got greed and ignorance together, basically we make poor decisions because we've got the wrong motivation and the wrong data. So we just make really ordinary decisions. When we've got greed and fear operating together, they're quite tentative because our motivation is wrong, and we're afraid, and therefore we don't want to make choices, and then we're thinking we're making choices for the wrong reasons, and so therefore we're quite tentative in our decision making. We often make small decisions when we should have made bigger decisions, and those sorts of things, because we're just all over the place. And then when ignorance and fear combine, we get inaction. And people just don't have all the information and are scared to make a step. So therefore, they prevaricate and postpone, don't we? All the P's. So, those sort of things. And then I find that when you've got, greed, fear, ignorance, it's about motivation, your attitude to the change or whatever, and then lack of good information combined together, we often end up with chaos. We make some really chaotic decisions, and I've seen them in businesses where people make investment decisions and have done things that I look at them quite stunned at times, and sometimes they're not clients of mine, of course, but I look at decisions that people often make in business and go, I'm not sure where that came from. And other people make great decisions. So balancing up all these things is really important. All right, before we move on and talk about what we might do about them, I just want to have a quick check-in. does the model make sense? Do the three factors make sense? Are they the things that you think sit behind, really sit the underlying causes of some of the things that you may be doing in your business that cause some of the poor success? I mean, there are other market forces and other stuff that can do it, but yeah. All right. So yeah, and does the model make sense? And yeah, good. All right, great. Thank you. Excellent. All right. So it sounds like we're on track. Good stuff. All right. Just want to have that quick check in there. All right. So let's talk a little about what we can do then to reduce the impact of these things. So I was going to say, just want to reflect back. Sorry, just quickly. So there's a slide I didn't have in my notes. Sorry about that. If you think back, and did these I guess these factors play a role in your decision making in 2017? Yep. Did they make that? Did they play a role in some of your decision making if you think about it? And which one was probably the dominant one for you? Greed, fear, ignorance. Greed and fear and ignorance, leading to inaction. Yep. Yeah. Certainly fear stepped in for me a bit in the last year. No doubt about that. Some certain areas. So that's all good. Greed. Yep. Some more fear, some more ignorance. So we're getting a good spread of them all. Okay, great stuff. All right. Thanks for that feedback. All right. So what can we do to reduce the impact of these factors on our decision making? Like most things, I find that awareness is half the battle. So we just need to understand ourselves and whether these things are really getting in there, so that we can actually start to address them. And I think if you don't identify that it's an issue, then you're never going to address it. And I don't want to go all herbal on you, but I think one of the things we need to do is just really start to understand ourselves first. And you need to be, I think in business we need more and more as we start to get under more pressure, and there's we've got more responsibility to others, and there's faster time frames, and people expect more of us. That you need to be coming from if you're going to make good business decisions and good personal decisions as well, we need to be coming from this sort of place where we're comfortable with ourselves, a place of inner peace, if you like, where good acceptance of yourself, where they're comfortable with the way you're acting, and you're interacting with others. So I think you need to have quite strong alignment between your personal values and or your purpose in life or in business, in order to take some of these factors out and to think about them in appropriate frameworks. Because I think unless you're starting to come from that point of looking at yourself and going, okay, what do I need to change here, or not? What do I need to work on, and what am I doing, and how am I interacting? And unless that's coming from a place where you're looking at your values and saying, things are out of whack here for me, therefore I'm making some unbalanced decisions, either by greed or fear, maybe a little bit of ignorance because, I'm a bit unbalanced in what I know and what I think I know, then I think you start to make some bad decisions. So that's the overarching sort of thing that I want us to think about. But let's talk about greed, what we can do with greed. My golden rule in life is if it's too good to be true, it probably is. Your Nigerian uncle offering you 20 million is just too good to be true. A complete stranger turns up and says, for a small fee, if you just help me get some money out of the country, I'll send it to you. And these people take money off people all the time. In the past, I've had clients that had taken money for them. That's purely greed. They just gone to the greed thing and said, "Oh, wow, this is a fantastic opportunity." Now, I recently got one a Nigerian letter. It's quite funny from somebody who was from the Bank of Scotland, actually, which is an interesting twist on things. Even the Scots giving away money for free, but saying that my uncle Muhammad Cummings had just passed away and had left me a whole heap of money, and so Uncle Muhammad, we're trying to find him on the family tree still. So. Look to your purpose and your values. Does this align with what's going on, with what you're trying to do? Just look back on yourself. So think about what's driving your behaviour. Are you looking for external validation? Is it insecurity that's driving this? What's driving it? And question your motivation. Why is this important to me? The other thing I find is people often get addicted to some of these things. So we get addicted to, celebrity and fame and money or attention and all those things. And look at the number of crazy celebrities that do all sorts of crazy things and get involved in all sorts of stuff, making very poor decisions in their lives simply because they're addicted to the fame or the celebrity or lots of other things that go with it. I'm saying that as an external advisor because I've never had fame and celebrity to worry about. So, but that's my external view of what's going on. The other thing to think about if you want to overcome greed is to listen to other opinions that may break up your paradigm. So often we get so focused on something and we find it hard to listen to people who are contrarian. But listen to people who are contrarian and try and digest what they're saying and say, well, if they're right, how is this playing out for me and what am I doing? So think carefully about greed and other opinions. Are there any things that occur to you of how you may be able to overcome greed? Are there other things that pop into your head that you go, yeah, this is something I could do? The question box. Maybe you're ready. All right. No, so that's okay. Here we go. Listen to other opinions. Yeah, I think that's important. I really do think it's important to listen to other opinions and take on advice of others. I mean, it's always dangerous. I find it's always dangerous when people only listen to one source of information. So I think it's good to have multiple opinions on things and on balance make up your own decision on that. On that. All right, let's talk about ignorance. And I love this model here. This is a model on competence developed in the 1970s by a guy called Noel Birch. And basically it says we're either conscious, in terms of awareness, we're either unconsciously, we're not really aware, or we're consciously aware of something. Skill level, we can be incompetent and competent. And obviously these things are on a continuum, not just straight blocks. But if you look at it, you start the process, and I think about, I've been teaching my daughters to drive in the last couple of years, which is always an interesting experience. And they both started out as in this sort of, incompetent and unconsciously incompetent, quadrant one. They start out in quadrant one where they're unconsciously incompetent. They don't know what they don't know. So they've watched it, my wife and I driving all this time and other people driving, and they're thinking, well, they can do it, I can do it. It can't be that hard. It's then when they actually get their L's and they actually sit in the car that they become consciously incompetent. So they actually know that they don't know lots of stuff. Yeah. And it becomes quite real to them. So you move through this phase where you move from, conscious incompetence to unconscious incompetence to conscious incompetence. Yeah. Then we move to phase 3, which is where we're conscious and competent. Yeah, and that's probably, I'm somewhere between phase 2 and phase 3 on my motorbike at the moment. I'm starting to get my skill level from moving from incompetent to competent, but I'm extremely conscious of what's going on. So it's I concentrate on what I'm doing all the time. And then finally we get to the level where we're unconsciously competent. And that's where most of us would be in our driving. We can drive along the road and really not have to concentrate on the road that much because it's almost second nature to us. So we move through this sort of cycle, and in these sort of things, and I find that that levels or stages 1 and 4 are probably the most dangerous because that's when you're unaware. Yeah, so we're not conscious of what's going on. Yeah, so the danger there is either we're unconscious and incompetent, and therefore we just have no idea, or we're unconscious and competent, acting on autopilot, and therefore just trusting that everything we've always done in the past will be right in the future, and therefore we don't go and look for more information and seek out the opinions of others. Yeah. So I think that's a useful model. So you only wish you're unconscious when in the car teaching them to drive. It's rather stressful. Yes, it is. I'm sure my father used to drink and drive when he was teaching me in the good old days before random breath testing. I could see why. Yeah, very stressful behaviour. But anyway, it's one of the craziest things you'll ever do if you think about it. So ignorance, where do you sit in that cycle? So, are you what quadrant are you in when you're in some of your decision making? I think most of you in lots of decisions you'll be making will be in, quadrants 3 and quadrants 4, and as I said, I think quadrant 4 is probably the most dangerous, because you're not conscious that you don't know what you don't know. All right, so I think that's probably where we sit. So a couple of things: make sure you do your research. So if you're going to make a big decision, make sure you do the research and do it well. Ask the hard questions. Why is this? Why is that happening? What's going on? How are we going to do it? So ask the questions and ask the hard questions, and be I guess questioning of your own assumptions. So question the assumptions that you've made, not the outcomes that you've got, but question the assumptions that you've made to get those outcomes. Get some external input from a colleague, friend, coach, whoever you want. Make sure you evaluate thoroughly. So often we don't look back and evaluate what's gone before, or what's coming ahead, and be really wary of groupthink and running with the pack. Too often I see, well, that's what everybody does in our industry. I don't think that's necessarily a good reason to do it just because everybody else does it. And it can be quite dangerous in many industries to do what everybody else does, because lots of your competitors are actually losing money or not running particularly good businesses, and so doing the same stuff that they're doing, it can be really dangerous. And I've had situations where I've been working with clients where we've come up with a very different approach to what the competition's done, because everybody else was doing the same. So think of those sorts of things. In terms of overcoming fear, so I want you to ask some other stuff. So clearly understand your motivation. Oh, sorry, fear. I've done here. I've skipped a few things. Sorry. So fear. Sorry about that. I did 2 pages at once. So think about with fear. I want you to ask yourself a couple of things. I want you to ask yourself why. All right. So and use as a tool we use at Mindshop called the 5 whys, where you just keep asking why. So why is that, and get an answer, and why is that again? And on average, they say about 5, but you might do it in 2 whys or 3 whys or 7 whys, but 5 whys. So try and drill down into the cause. What's the potential cause of this, and what's really driving me? So 5 whys is a great tool that you could use for lots of these. Now try and isolate your fear, and ask yourself the following questions. So what are the potential outcomes of this action? What's the likelihood of this happening, and how would I know if things are going wrong? Or are I? How would I measure that? What would I measure if something was going to go wrong? And so have a canary measure if you like. So the coal mines are canary, so make sure you have a canary measure. All right. If fear is an issue for you, look back at your track record and reflect on that and plan appropriately. So if your track record has been really good and you actually know what you're doing in this space, but you're a little bit of trepidation around it, all right, reflect on that track record and use that track record to plan. Likewise, if your track record has been planned, start to pull it apart and start to say, well, what's been the cause of my problems here, and what do I need to do, and come up with a plan. Now, remember, greed and fear are very closely linked. Okay, so that's something to think about, because they often come from insecurity. All right, so they come from us being insecure, and therefore either we get fear or we get a bit aggressive and we get greedy and trying to overcome that fear. So think it through. So a lot of this stuff is thinking about you and how you interact with others, and I guess what your motivation is personally in some of this space. All right, now, as I said, leadership. So I find it's all about balance. So leadership for me is all about the balance. So clearly understanding your motivations and drivers is really important. As I said earlier, I think you need to make sure that you ensure that you are comfortable with yourself, that you're aligned to your purpose and values and actions, that are all in alignment. And so, the most stress that people have in life, I find, is when they are in conflict with their personal values. So when things are in conflict with their personal values, sometimes it's not, working hard is not the problem. It's the fact that it conflicts with, we can all work hard. It's actually that it conflicts with your values, with your values of family time or other time that you want to be spending, with your community or with your family or whatever. And that's the stress, because you're actually out of alignment with your values. So with your decision making, what you can do is use your values as a checklist. So if you don't have any values, I think we've done videos on values before, so you'll find those on the website. But determine the key values that are important in your life, and use them as a checklist to say, well, this decision I'm making, does it fit with these values? All right. The other thing people do is they don't take the time to reflect. Okay, so take the time to reflect and plan. Too often we just get caught up in everything and we just don't take the time to do it, and we make rush decisions, and therefore we often make them from either of these 3 points of greed, fear, or ignorance. Okay, so that's really important. Get some external input. I find it's really important for people to get some external inputs to balance their views. That could be for colleagues, mentors, coaches. And often I find sometimes if there's been a long time between discussions with some of my clients, I'll come back and they've made some decisions that we will question and say, well, do we really need to make that decision now or ever? And was it the right decision at the time? And sometimes it's been a poor decision that we've made just on the spur of the moment, and we spend the rest of our time, digging ourselves out of those holes. All right, so there's some of the things that we really want to think about. And I guess when you think about sort of moving on to success, I think about a model around really about lifting performance, about how do we improve the performance of our business and the things that we need to do. And the model I like is this model of saying, righto, we need to work to a plan. All right, so we need to have a good plan that's well thought through, and it's not driven by greed, fear, or ignorance. That we've got some strategies that make sense, and sometimes they evolve over time, but you've got to start somewhere with a plan. The other thing is make sure you write your plan down. So your plan needs to be written down. I'm not talking about War and Peace. We do plenty of one-page plans in Mindshop, but I'm talking about a short plan so that you can hold yourself accountable to it, but also so that you can communicate it with others. One of the key important reasons for writing your plan down is so that you can communicate it effectively with others in your team. And also so you put a stake in the ground that your plan doesn't become a moving feast, or a moving target, that we're constantly changing it because the environment's changing. We need to sit down and say, hang on a second, this is what we're planning to do. Let's go back and have a look at that. Once you've got the plan, I think you need to set up some measurements for your success. So how do we measure our success? What are the key drivers that we're going to look at in our business that will help us when we're going to measure our success? Now, we've got a methodology we use called OKRs, objectives and key results, and we can use those to start cascading down some measures that are going to work in your business. Too often in business we don't measure the right things. We measure the things that are easy. We measure the dollars and cents because they're easy. We keep track of those, but we often don't measure some other things that are equally important and that we fail to do. And then capability. We've got to build capability. The third phase in this is building capability. I see great plans, with fantastic measures and targets and everything else, and we simply do not have the capability to execute those plans. Now, that capability can be in terms of people, it can be in terms of resources, it can be in terms of finance, but we need to make sure that we've got the infrastructure and the capability in order to deliver. And we need to do some planning around that. We need to do some thinking around that, and we need to build the capability of our team. Yeah, so I think moving forward in the next 3 to 5 years, we're going to see a really big expansion in people wanting to build their capability as leaders in their business and build the capability within their business to deliver. As we get less and less people involved in our workforce, because as baby boomers are moving out of the workforce, we're just not going to replace them with as many people coming through. I think there's going to be a real pressure on us to actually build capability internally, and I've just started some big projects where we're looking to build capability with 20 odd managers in a business to help that business grow and develop and take themselves to the next phase. So that's pretty exciting stuff. And then you've got to grow the team. So it's not just enough to have the capability to improve their skills and give them all the resources and stuff. You actually need to work with the team to grow that team and build that team. And by that, I mean you want better teamwork. We want people working together as a team, so they're taking advantage of the capability that they've got, and we're leveraging that effectively. And there's a whole heap of work to be done in that space if we're going to really lift the performance of our businesses. So that's the way we sort of work. And that's the sort of model we've started working to. I guess in terms of how we package that up, in the past people have said to me, how do you work? And it's always been a bit of a sort of make it up on the run a little bit. But I've started to put together some neat packages for people. And these are sort of some examples of some of the stuff that we do. And I've just called them, performance, growth, and unlimited. But the performance level is really for small businesses, owner managers and smaller businesses, sort of 1 to 5 employee type size, who are pretty self-motivated but really committed to making some real change. And therefore what we've done is put together sort of 7 online training courses that you could do over a period of 6 months, following up with some group coaching calls similar to this, but where you guys get to ask questions. We'd open up the microphones so people could talk and all that sort of stuff, so you can do some of that sort of stuff, and a group planning session to set things off. That sort of program starts from about $400 a month over 6 months. Then we moved into what we call our growth program, which is for larger businesses. It's probably the most popular area. It's where most of my clients sit at the moment. It's for people, I guess, who want more access to me individually. So it's a lot more individual coaching. We're going to start running some events. So I'm going to run some planning events down here on the Gold Coast where we get groups of people together. We give you access to our online resource center, our full resource center, 25 plus courses. We can build individual, tailor-made custom courses for you. You get access to webinars, you get access to me, you get access to all that sort of stuff. And prices vary there, really depending on whether we work remotely or whether I come and visit you, in situ with your business. And then the last one then is what we call our limited program, which is really the growth program on steroids for people with multiple team members who want to do, a lot more with their team, and they may have people in performance and in growth, and we want to do some different things together. So we'll tailor a package with you in each of these areas. These are just examples of stuff we do, but we can sit down and tailor a package for you and what you want to do. And then the fourth area we work on is what we call training academies, and we build training academies where we really want to grow the leadership in a particular business, and it's a combination of different things that are tailor-made specifically for that business, but as a large training program, if you like. So we do all that sort of stuff. Okay, if you're interested in any of this sort of stuff, you'll get more details on the website. Some more information on pricing and that sort of stuff. You can also register and sign up there and get going if you like. If you've got any questions at all, please just, there's enough buttons on the website where you can click, have a chat with Russ. Really happy to just have a 10-minute phone call with you to see whether we're a good fit for you, whether you're a good fit for me, and whether we can really help you or not. Anyway, that's great. Thanks, Max. Yeah, we've put a little bit of effort into the website. It's not finished yet, but I just wanted to get it up, so it's up and away. So that's all good. Folks, that's where we're at. Our next webinar is same time, 5 o'clock Brisbane time, on the 21st of March. And what we're going to cover then is building leadership capability. So we're going to look at your capability as a leader, and what are some of the factors that we need to think about. What are done a great survey of business leaders just recently, and we're going to give you some of the insights out of that, but also drill in some of the things that we really need to be leaders. So thank you for joining us tonight. I hope that if you think about where we're at with decision making and planning our business, the big barriers that I really see are around when we get down to the underlying causes that sit behind those things, often driven by greed. Where we're just making decisions based on the wrong motivation is the way I think about it. Driven by fear, which is again about motivation, but it means we often either don't do things, or we do things that sabotage us. Right? So often we won't do something because we're afraid we're going to fail, so therefore we just don't do it, or we're afraid of success, so we shoot ourselves in the foot. And we do that subconsciously. And then the last one then is around ignorance. Yeah, and we're just not getting enough information to make some good decisions. All right, so I hope that's made sense to you. And happy to have any feedback. As I mentioned, we're recording this, so we'll put the recording up on the website in the next day or so, and we'll flick you an email out that will have the details for that. And if you don't have any other questions or anything, I'm happy to answer any questions now if there's any questions. But if not, then we will see you at the next webinar, hopefully. Or if you're a client of mine, hopefully I'll catch up with you fairly soon. It's part of the thing. All right, thanks, Sue. Good to talk to you. We'll see you soon. Thanks, David. Good to hear from you. I hope things are well for you. Thanks, Max. John, thanks, mate. Yeah, it is a bit scary. Some of this stuff can really drive our business decisions and make us make some good stuff. Anyway, I hope things are well for you, and I'll talk to you soon. Thanks, Bronwyn. When you say, is there a training program for 2018? Can you just give me a little bit more detail? Thanks, Cam. Good to hear from you, mate. I hope you're getting out on your bike. Hope you got yourself a bit repaired there, so that's all good. I'm loving mine. Did 1,500 k's the other week on it, so it's become my primary mode of transport. I'm spending more time on my bike than I am on my in the car at the moment, which is good. Bronwyn, yeah, the previous models advertised. Are you going to the new Shift website, or if you go to my website, which is www.shift.com.au, those crazy Welsh people, that's Welsh for Shift. So if you go there, but really happy to have a chat with you about that if you're interested in doing something. We've got heaps of training modules that you can do. Yeah, it could be on NextGen. Yeah, currently the Hort NextGen project wasn't refunded when they swapped over from HAL to HIA. That funding pool disappeared. So I'd like to do something else in horticulture. I've got a couple of private training things going on in horticulture, but there's plenty of stuff we can do in there. All right. So if you'd like, happy to have a chat with you. That'd be good. 1,600 k's, Cam. Yeah, good work, mate. All right. That's fantastic. Getting out of my bike, I'm just loving it. Just loving it. Although I did get caught in 10 degree weather. It was 36 when I left and 10 degrees when I came home. I think it was the coldest trip I've ever had in my entire life. Anyway, all right, guys. Thanks very much for your feedback, and we'll call it there. And hope you have a great night. Talk to you soon.